August 2, 5 o'clock in the afternoon or evening. So it's raining cats and dogs. I don't know how long this would be. However, if the rice plants are flowering and pollinating, then this is going to be a challenge. And also, with what I'm learning recently about dry season versus wet season, where during wet season it's a lot of cloudy days, so solar radiation is lesser, and hot temperature. So these two factors, or three factors: rain disturbing the pollination, lesser radiation, and then hot temperature reduces yield during wet season, whereas dry season, cool, lots of solar radiation, and hardly any rain to disturb pollination. So those are the things that are part of growing rice. That is the reason why I'm seeing that a lot of farmers, and I've been hearing this, saying that it is better yield during dry season. And based from what I'm reading, it is proven to be true. So this is lessons learned for me. And so what do we do? Do we continue with the bi-split or continue with the tri-split? I mean, the tri-split do make the plants looking handsome, pretty, healthy looking. But then if the yield is the same as bi-split, what is the point? So that's the question I'm going to ask myself next year, second crops. Do I want to repeat the experiment? Or I suppose, well, I already know what the yield is like for split. Now I'm learning the yield for tri-split. So quite frankly, you don't need a lot of fertilizer during rainy season if the yield remain around the same, like using bi-split. What's the point in doing tri-split? So that's the question. Maybe I'll do one more test. Although doing the same test and expecting a different result, it's kind of silly. However, like, I don't know, maybe next year I will think about doing tri-split again. Still, do I really want to if the yield will result in the same thing? Yeah, 3rd July. It's been like this every night. Rains, cats and dogs. And the rice field in Basao is drowning in water. So I gotta go check there tomorrow. Cats and dogs. There's a dog. My goodness. So with this kind of rain, and a lot of the rice fields are pollinating, this is going to be a challenge to the farmer. This is, I don't know, even with my rice field, my goodness, It's like this every night. Rains, cat and dog. And yeah, that is the reason why rice yield during wet season is low. This is one major factor here. Thanks for watching. 4th August around 6 o'clock. Yesterday this place was harvested. We were forced to do it because the water level is high and the panicle were just being submerged. It has been raining the past several nights, cats and dogs. So much rain that we had to harvest. It's Manotin na nya oras nga nagsardin kayo?
Tayo naman.
Sa nagtudo permi dirabi eh.
Tayo naman.
Idi nag hampay nga nagtudo idi nalpas kayo?
Hampayang ka.
Mayat nga road. Napanda di kapilya?
Napanda kapilyang.
Okay. The adomanenti natumba niya because of the heavy rain and wind. We had no choice but to do this. So now, because there's so much toppled rice over there, we will have to spend effort to upright them. One huge factor in yield losses are the weather. It's beyond human control. This is the thing about second crops. So really, what I was expecting just because I went rice split? It's like I neglected to factor the weather. I did neglect to factor in the weather. So the thing about fertilizing rice split, it's majorly applicable to first crop or dry season, not wet season crops. They're part of many water in the latter stages of the rice plant. What I wanted to happen was before August, last week, July, I wanted to have the rice plants harvested. As the weeks or days move into September, it gets worse. I mean, what is worse? I mean, that to me is worse losses because typhoon comes. That's one of the major reasons why my scheduling was middle August. All of these are harvested. However, this is the first week of August, and this happened. So that's just it's just the way it is. I don't know what the losses is here like. I mean, if you take a look at that windrows or the thing that come out of the back end of the harvester. I mean, those unpollinated rice, yeah, quite a bit of it. So those are influence of rain. I mean, there's enough water for this to be saturated, so I won't see panicle exertion challenges. So this low-lying area, it's wouldn't feel the plants dryness, the mud being dry. This part really is a good part for checking panicle exertion. So my premise was tri-split would give us lots of yield. I did not factor the weather, and I've been here 6-7 years now. I mean, so 2018, it's 2024, so 6 years. These are the lessons learned that I have. 5 years of by split, the yield are the same. I notice dry season, wet season, the yield is about the same. A little bit more in dry season. However, they're close enough that I can see. I mean, if there was a huge difference, I would jump on that, but I did it. So that's another lessons learned. Try split fertilization during wet season. It's really not a play because why? Why give it more when it's the huge loss will be driven by the weather. Maybe I would be so fortunate that wet season is not wet season. It's kind of fun. Why is wet season not wet season? I can only dream. This is really sad. I mean, I'm self-centered. There are other farmers too that experiencing the same thing. So my condolences to those people also experiencing the same thing because we're all under the sun. So why should I be any different from other farmers? So if I have this kind of loss or losses, then the other farmers will be experiencing the same. If I'm sad, they will be sad too. So we are challenged by wet season. So this is the harvest. I don't know how many sack of rice. They're wet, so they need to be dried. We're gonna sell them as dry rice because they're wet. So hopefully today the sun would be out, burn the clouds away, and we start drying these. Because if we don't, the temperature inside the sack would rise and it would rot the rice. So it's imperative that these will be dried. So the cow is back. Well, at least it's not eating the rice. Yeah, and of course here in Amyanan the rice are toppled. So it's starting. They need to be uprighted because the rice are still in that melting stage. So the wind from last night came from the north, so that's why the toppling is pointing toward the south. The challenges here is because most of them are going into the hardening stage, and then they begin to topple like this. That really is sad. So look like the soil is loosened, and that's the reason why the root system is unable to keep the plants upright. If you ever wondered why, well, it's two. I think majorly, majorly is that a word? The majority of the toppleness has to do with the mud plots become soft, saturated, that they no longer hold the plants by mechanical means. So they would just topple. So if they're not mitigated, they would continue to move. So I'm going to ask them to upright them right away so that the losses would be lesser. Initially, I based from observation, having them harvested before August, before middle August was an action that needs to be taken. Now, it's almost like the end of July that this needs to be done. It's moved by 2 weeks. Challenges with that, we could actually do it. The challenge for us was water. So after the dry season harvest, really April is really hot. Middle March, hot, dry, and we have to keep pumping water like crazy just to keep the dirt saturated. We could actually schedule the planting so that we harvest end of July. We could do that. Seems to be the thing to do. Focusing on yield made my eyes open even more. So wet season. If I hope it to be same yield as dry season, it's not gonna happen. It's just the way it is. What to do better? That's a question. I mean, frankly, try split. It does make the plants look better. However, if the biomass do not transfer the nutrients into the panicle, into the spikelets, it makes the seeds not so heavy due to look, cloud cover, less solar radiation because of cloud cover. So that then mitigate or reduce the transfer of the biomass into the spikelets. The accumulated nutrients is reduced by solar radiation and temperature. I mean, it's unless it rains, the temperature at night is really hot. That's really is the challenge. Again, I can't control the weather. I came to the realization that expecting the same yield as dry season is not going to happen. So there is a minimum yield that will happen, and I think once I have all of the data, this that would be the minimum yield here in this location. So here in Mormon, this way, the toppling seems to the wind seems to be southwest, and so it's the direction of the topple is northeast, and it's quite a bit. I mean, that's just a small portion. I think there's more over there. They're on the ripening stage. These are supposed to be harvested next week. They're ripening nicely. However, with this kind of toppling, just the way it is. So this is loud, and the toppling, well, it's not so bad. Our neighbor toppling is a lot worse than this one. I mean, that's quite a bit. And frankly, they have a beautiful rice. I actually fooled myself thinking tri-split is will give me better yield. And that's the way it is. Like there is this blinder on where I wanted to see what I wanted to see. I mean, I was focused on high yield. I really need to factor in the weather in the wet season. So moving forward, wet season you get what you get because of the uncertainty of the weather. I really did not factor the weather. It's I don't know. There was a blinders on. I just fooled myself. So here by the submersible, it's this little triangle plots. The majority of the plants are mainly toppled. So the direction of the wind, the way this toppled came from the west, going southeast. Interesting. And I noticed how the wind was whipping, and so it's whipping the rice as well, depending on the direction of the wind whip. So this one is moving. The direction is northeast. The direction is southeast. So just whipped around like a hurricane or a typhoon, sorry, or a cyclone. Went around in circle. It was really quite hard. I was looking at the weather, and this weather came out of the blue from the north. So it's interesting how it was developing. And then when it came, it's like in the past. When during typhoon season, the wind just come in hard, fast and loose, just that kind of wind shear. I think it probably was a wind shear. So on this part of the 1 hectare, the wind direction is southeast. I don't know. There's still a lot of greens. really hate to not do something to at least improve yield by having them uprighted. But man, when they start, because of the saturated mud, they begin to topple. So, and these, they're beginning to topple as well. And wow, plenty of green. So our neighbor is challenged. Everyone is challenged with toppled rice. So with season, huge losses. Have to refactor all of this new information that I didn't really pay attention in the past. I mean, I did, in a way I did. That's the reason why I moved the harvest cycle to middle August. And because I've been noticing some changes, I wanted the harvest cycle to be end of July. I couldn't do it, mainly due to El Nino, lack of rain. And we didn't, I noticed we didn't act fast enough because we were busy with putting in submersible, and that really took time as well. So there were mitigating circumstances where I couldn't begin to schedule the planting in such a manner that we harvest last week of July. There were just too many activities. And one thing I didn't plan it enough. I mean, I did it for Munoz. I actually calculated this week to be the harvest time. It's week 32 now. I also knew that there is a week window where we could actually harvest. So I played with that. So fortunately, we harvested manga and Munoz. They ripen quickly, and so we were able to harvest before this could have happened to although it did in manga. I mean, they were toppling, and that's because of the plants are too tall. In Munoz they weren't, so that was another surprise. Why the difference? So just these things just mitigate the yield. So I was blinded by my own lack of data. I just didn't see it. I blinded myself. I wish to have high yield with dry split. It just yeah, it was a good thought. However, the weather says, oh no, you're not. Your yield will be like any other yield the past 5 years. So what then? I mean, is dry split not any better than bi split? I'm coming to that conclusion. Why spend more when the result will be like this? Yeah, when I'm looking at the yield, it's for manga the yield was around 4 tons per hectare. For Munoz, the yield was 5 tons per hectare, around there. It's less than 6,000 tons per hectare. So I think those are the minimum for wheat season. 4 to 6 tons. Any higher than that is, a blessing, gravy on the mashed potato. Because of the less solar radiation, hot temperature, rain, typhoon, cyclone. Yeah, one can't be blind about these things. We should recognize these challenges. It's part of farming. Now, how do we deal with this? What do we do? Can we get high yield during wet season? I think it's variable. The equation is yield is equal to the weather, proportional to the weather. Now you have to look for the constant. Which I don't know. I don't think there's any constant that can be used for that. Maybe the equation would be yield loss is proportional to the weather. The calmer the weather, the better the yield. The calmer the weather, the yield loss will be less. The weather gets worse, the yield loss will be higher. So that tells me there's no constant. Yeah, I look into the distance. The clouds are low lying. It's gonna, I don't know what it means, but it's gonna rain some more. This is the life of a farmer. It's challenging. So what are you gonna do? What one should do is hope and pray. That's what one should do. Because this will happen. Hope and pray that the yield loss will be lesser. This is the fact of life. Thanks for watching.